Hollow Street is a place of secrets, a quiet lane where the mundane and the mysterious live side by side. Most folks hurry through, their eyes fixed ahead, oblivious to the strange whispers that cling to the old brickwork. But for those who listen, for those who dare to look, Hollow Street tells stories. And tonight, we're telling the story of the Clockmaker. Our tale begins on a Tuesday, or maybe it was a Wednesday. The days in Hollow Street have a way of blending together. It started with a small thing, as these stories often do. Old Mrs. Gable's grandfather clock, a magnificent oak piece that had been silent for 2 decades, suddenly chimed just once. When she went to check, its hands were frozen, pointing to exactly 1:13. She thought it was a fluke, a final gasp from a dying machine. But then, the next day, Mr. Henderson's mantel clock, a wedding gift that hadn't worked since the 70s, did the same. Its hands, too, were locked at 1:13. Soon, it was a quiet epidemic. All up and down Hollow Street, clocks that had been dormant for years, cuckoo clocks, carriage clocks, even a rusty old sundial in someone's garden that had no business telling time at night were being found frozen at 1:13. It wasn't just a few. It was dozens. Every single broken timepiece on the street had been mysteriously fixed, only to be stopped again at that precise, ungodly hour. 1:13 in the morning. Panic, as you can imagine, didn't so much spread as it seeped. It was a cold, quiet fear. Who was doing this, and why? It felt less like a prank and more like a message, a warning etched onto the face of time itself. The police were called, but what could they do? Investigate a case of benevolent, yet creepy, clock repair. They found no signs of forced entry, no fingerprints, nothing. It was as if a ghost had drifted through their homes, a phantom with a penchant for horology. The residents of Hollow Street started talking, their whispers echoing in the local pub and over garden fences. They pieced together a fragmented picture. The only person on the street they knew who had any skill with clocks was a man named Elias Thorne. Elias was a recluse, a shadow who lived in the tall, narrow house at the very end of the street, the one with the perpetually drawn curtains and the overgrown ivy. He was a clockmaker by trade, or at least he had been, years ago. His shop, Thorne's Timeless Treasures, had closed down abruptly over a decade ago after a tragedy. No one had seen Elias in years, not really. He was a local legend. The boogeyman parents used to scare their children into behaving. Finish your dinner, or Mr. Thorne will come and set your clock back. Now, it seemed the boogeyman was real. But instead of setting clocks back, he was setting them forward to a single, immutable moment, 1:13. A small group of braver, or perhaps more foolish, residents decided they needed answers. Led by the ever-practical Mrs. Gable and a young, curious journalist named Finn who had just moved to the street, they decided to pay Mr. Thorne a visit. As they approached his house, the air grew colder. The gate creaked open under Finn's hand, groaning like a tired old man. The house loomed over them, its windows like vacant eyes. The only light came from a single window on the top floor, a faint, flickering glow. Finn knocked on the heavy oak door. The sound was swallowed by the silence. He knocked again, louder this time. They waited. Just as they were about to give up, they heard a sound from within. A soft, rhythmic ticking. No, not just one. Hundreds of them. A symphony of ticks and tocks, all perfectly in sync. The sound was mesmerizing, almost hypnotic. Then a shuffling sound, and the slow turning of a lock. The door opened a crack, and a sliver of a man appeared. Elias Thorne was older and more stooped than they remembered. His face was a roadmap of wrinkles, his eyes clouded with a sorrow, though deep it seemed to have its own gravity. He looked at the small crowd on his doorstep, not with anger, but with a weary resignation. "You've come about the clocks," he said, his voice raspy from disuse. It wasn't a question. Mrs. Gable, ever direct, stepped forward. "Elias, what is all this? You're scaring people." Elias Thorne looked past them, his gaze fixed on something far away, something only he could see. "I'm not fixing them," he whispered. "I single quotes am ... remembering." He opened the door wider, a silent invitation into his world. Stepping inside was like stepping into another dimension. The entire house was a clock, not just filled with them, but it was one. Clocks of every shape and size covered every surface. Grandfather clocks stood like sentinels along the walls. Mantel clocks crowded the shelves. Cuckoo clocks hung in silent clusters. And in the center of the main room was a workbench, littered with gears, springs, and tiny, intricate tools. The air hummed with the synchronized ticking of 1,000 timepieces, all pointing to different times, all moving, all except for one collection, set aside on a velvet cloth. Those were the clocks from the street, their hands all pointing to 1:13. Finn, the journalist, pulled out his notepad, his skepticism warring with a profound sense of awe. "Mr. Thorne," he started, "why that specific time?" 1:13? Elias didn't answer immediately. He walked over to his workbench and picked up a small, silver pocket watch. He cradled it in his palm as if it were a fragile bird. 15 years ago, he began, his voice trembling slightly, I had a daughter. Her name was Lily. A collective, soft gasp went through the small group. Many remembered Lily, a bright, cheerful girl with a laugh that could chase away the gloomiest hollow street day. She was my world, Elias continued. My sun, my moon, my stars. She loved this shop. She would spend hours here, watching me work, her eyes wide with wonder. She believed every clock had a soul, a story to tell. He paused, swallowing hard against a grief that was still raw after all these years. One night ... there was a fire. Here, in the workshop, an accident with some chemicals I was using to clean an old timepiece. His eyes filled with tears that didn't fall. I got out, but Lily ... she was asleep upstairs. By the time the fire brigade got here ... it was too late. He held up the silver pocket watch. Its hands were melted and fused to the face. The time was 1:13 a.m. This was hers. It stopped at the exact moment she ... she left. The ticking in the room suddenly felt oppressive, each tick a reminder of a life cut short. For years, Elias said, his voice barely a whisper, I couldn't stand the sound. I closed the shop. I let every clock in this house run down. Silence was my only comfort, but the silence, it became louder than the ticking ever was. It was empty, about a month ago, on the anniversary of her death. I found one of her old music boxes. I wound it up, and for the first time in 15 years, I felt something other than pain. I felt her. It was like she was here with me. So I started with my own clocks. I fixed them, one by one. And as I worked, I felt closer to her. I felt her spirit, her joy in the craft. Then, I started sensing other clocks, the broken ones, the forgotten ones on the street. It was like I could hear their silence, their loneliness. Lily would have wanted them to work again. She would have wanted them to tell their stories. So at night, I would go out. I can't explain how. It's like the grief, the love it gives me away. I don't break in. The doors just open for me. I find the clock, and I fix it. I let it run, just for a little while. And then I stop it, at her time, 1:13. It's not a warning. It's a memorial. Every clock stopped at that time is a headstone, a monument to my little girl, so that no one on this street can ever forget her, so that I can never forget. Silence descended upon the room, a different kind of silence now, not empty, but filled with a shared, profound sadness. Mrs. Gable stepped forward and gently placed a hand on Elias's arm. "Oh, Elias," she said softly, "we never knew. We are so sorry." From that day on, no one on Hollow Street looked at their frozen clocks with fear. They looked at them with understanding, with a quiet reverence. They were no longer symbols of a strange intruder, but markers of a father's unending love. The clocks never ran again, but they were no longer broken. They were memorials, each one a testament to the girl who loved the sound of ticking clocks, and the father who filled the silence of a lonely street with the time of her passing. Hollow Street went back to its quiet ways, but something had changed. The residents were a little kinder to each other, a little more patient. They understood that behind closed doors and drawn curtains, everyone has a story. Everyone has a time that defines them. And sometimes, the most important moments are the ones when time stands perfectly, heartbreakingly still. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story from Hollow Street, be sure to subscribe for more tales from the shadows.